Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail Martin, and tonight we are looking at Winchesters and Walker. What were the roads not taken? Where could the series have gone if they had continued?
You meant Walkers and Walker Independence, right?
Yes, Walker and Walker Independence and the Winchesters.
Winchesters too?
Yeah, let's throw that in too. So Walker Independence and the Winchesters, where could they have gone if the series had gotten renewed? Plenty of plot lines that were left not quite tied up in a bow. And so let's talk about that. But first, let's introduce our wonderful panelists, starting with Elektra.
I'm Elektra Hammond. I'm a writer and an editor, and I've watched all of these series, and I'm so confused about what we're going to be talking about tonight. So this should be super fun.
Join the crowd, so am I. And
Hi, I'm Ann Wicker, and I'm a writer and editor, former journalist, and yeah, I'm curious to see what we come up with too, because I think all of these series had great potential that was not fulfilled.
yeah. And I'm Gail Martin, and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all my modern day worlds are one Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. I've watched all of these series and critiqued some of them for the Winchester Family Business blog. And they had a tremendous amount of potential. They had good audience ratings, but the CW, the network on which they were running, is in the process of changing over to be something it isn't and attract a whole new demographic. And these shows just didn't fit with who they wanted to attract. So I think that's something to say up front, that it wasn't the quality of the shows that got them canceled. It was headquarters stuff looking at taking the network in a different direction. So let's start with Walker. It had the longest number of seasons. The other two only got one season. We worked through a number of different issues through the 4 seasons, but season 4.
No, there are 4. There are 4 of them. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Season 4 wrapped it up with enough of a bow that I think they knew it was a possibility they weren't coming back, but then there were these tantalizing things that were left unresolved. So, Elektra, where would you like to have seen Walker go if it had continued to another season?
I really would have liked to see them explore the leadership at the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they went and we finally promoted her, but it seemed to leave things like, okay, well, now we're going to be partners, maybe, but it left that in a real, are there no other Rangers? It's just like these 4 guys and they do all the Ranger work. I mean, it seemed like they had a really big office full of people. And, you know, it really seemed very tight. I mean, I was super glad she got the promotion, and I really wanted to see what she was going to do in a leadership role. But Walker really needs to settle into something and actually do some actual work rather than running around and getting involved in things and doing his own thing. And make up your mind, are you a cop or not?
Okay. Ann?
Well, I'll just blurt this out. I had a real problem with the character of Jerry, because in the early seasons, you were not quite sure if she was a good guy or a bad guy, or a good girl or a bad girl. And of course, she was romantically involved off and on for apparently years with Hoyt, who was Cordell's best friend. And then, of course, and then he gets killed, which I didn't like that storyline at all. But it was just like they had her as a character and wanted to keep her as a character, but they didn't develop her in any kind of logical way. And then all at once, she was related to their rival family, the Davidsons, and the Walker rival family, their next door neighbors, the Davidsons, which was kind of out of the blue. And how did that really, I didn't think it really, you know, moved the storyline forward at all, really, and except create another conflict and another reason for Cordell to feel bad about something. And then in the fourth season, the final season, they finally get around to that Cordell and Jerry are going to be an item. And that's okay. They had a bit of chemistry, not great, but some. But then the other thing that was a thread from early on that got dropped was that Cordell bought the Sidestep, and the bar that Jerry was running. He bought it when she was going to sell it out to somebody else. And for a while, it was like he was running it or the family was running it, and she was like managing it for them. And then she was gone, and then she came back, and it was all very confusing to me. And she became, and then all at once, she has this offer from this woman to put a Sidestep in Oklahoma City, of all places. And that just made no sense at all. And she decided that the woman's offer was no good, so she was going to investigate doing that expansion or whatever herself. But, you know, if you really look, of course, I mean, it's fictional TV, but if you really look, you know, Oklahoma City is 5 to 7 hours away from Austin. Why would you go that far to put another bar when you're trying to develop this relationship with Cordell, who we assume, as Elektra said, that he's going to do, if there had been a fifth season, that he was going to be more of a cop, and he's married to his job in Austin. So, I mean, I thought that was very badly handled, and such a big sort of, I didn't want that. I didn't want that road to be taken.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was one of those times when you want to ask the writers, have you been watching this show? There were episodes here and there on Supernatural where I wanted to pull the person aside and go, have you ever seen the show before? You do know who these people are, right? But
I think they changed their mind about whether or not she was going to be a bad guy.
I think they did too.
Yeah.
I think, and it was already going to be a complicated relationship because she had been Hoyt's girlfriend. Hoyt was Cordell's best friend, but best friend who was often on the wrong side of the law. And she was also had grown up with, I think, Cordell's wife, Emily, yeah. And so, I mean, I know people in real life who were two couples who were best friends for 50 years, and then a spouse for each one dies, they get together, it happens. I just didn't see it happening for them. I agree with what Ann said, that the chemistry felt wrong. And I think they did switch, whether or not she was supposed to be shady or good or uncommitted. And the Sidestep thing in Oklahoma.
Long
yeah.
To let them know that she'd been the one who found Emily first.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's forgivable.
No, that's a biggie. That's a betrayal, not just a oops.
That when we found that out, I had her on the bad side of the ledger, and I don't know how she got back on the good side. Oh yeah, by the way, I found Emily, and I'm the one who closed her eyes, but I didn't like call you because I was busy.
Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense. And I agree that that would be a biggie. That's a betrayal. They were definitely setting it up that there was going to be a lot more drama with the Davidsons. And that never made sense to me beyond, well, we need drama from something. And, you know, we have the family drama, we have the cop drama is kind of easy, but what could the family drama be? Oh, there's a rival neighbor, and it goes all the way back to the 1800s. I never thought that was well developed. Honestly, I thought that Walker Independence had much better developed characters and storylines than Walker itself. And so, yeah, and I was glad that the kids were getting older. And so maybe we weren't going to get as much stupid teenage drama that we had had in some of the first seasons, because Stella, get your head screwed on straight. There was a lot there that he was not a great parent. He was grieving Emily's death, but damn it, Grandma, step up and stand in and do something. So my 2 cents for what it's worth. I would have liked to have seen them find something different for the underlying family drama than the Davidson arc, even though I'm glad that it looked like we were moving away from teen angst for teen angst's sake. Any other thoughts about the family drama or the crime drama pieces before we pick a different series?
Well, the other family drama thing, I'm just jumping in,
Yeah.
was the fact that there was that small piece of that Bonham had cancer. Was it prostate cancer or something?
Mhm.
And then you never, I mean, I think you heard about it in maybe 2 or 3 episodes, maybe 4, and then nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's an ongoing thing that could have offered a little alternative family drama. And it just went away.
Well, and that could have changed the relationship between him and both of his sons and Abby, just because that whole idea of mortality. And I want to make sure, even if I have another 10 or 20 years, that I've got my ducks in a row, and it's time to set things right. Could have gone a long way.
Yeah.
And then there's also Liam, the disappearing brother.
Well, also, I mean, why on earth did they kill Detective Luna?
Yes, that was my next point.
I mean, that one killed me. It just, he didn't have to.
He was a good character.
He got like stabbed once, and they've got a medic like not that far away, and he couldn't manage to cry out or hold his guts in long enough to get an ambulance there.
He was such a good character.
Killed by bad writing.
And the chemistry was there between
Oh,
he and
yeah.
Abby. I mean, that was a hot romance, and it was
Way better than Walker and Jerry.
Oh,
by
yeah.
far.
Yeah.
And they made sense. And he had just like agreed to move to Austin, so they had to kill him off.
Yeah, that was
after her last boyfriend. Didn't she deserve a boyfriend?
Well, and because he was indigenous, Native American, that could have opened up all kinds of different storylines with issues on the reservation and issues between the law enforcement and Native mythology. They could have gone so many really interesting ways.
Well, and they didn't have to worry about them being in the line of command with each other, because he was transferring over to be a cop and not a ranger.
Right.
So they worked for different organizations that happened to work with each other.
Right.
Which was just like perfect.
It really was. And you made a good point there, Gail, about the whole opening up a whole lot of storylines about indigenous peoples. And I have to say that way, way back in the day, I did watch the original Walker. And in the first few seasons of that show, they did a number of indigenous people's storylines. They weren't as probably politically correct as they would be today, but at least they brought that aspect of living in Texas in to the stories.
Well, and he would have been such a great person to be in between the two worlds and kind of explore that between two worlds, because there's been a lot of mistrust, reasons, understandably so, and bad blood between the reservations and the civil authorities. And so there could have been some very interesting murders and issues and trafficking and smuggling. And here's this guy who he's kind of stuck between both, trying to navigate. Could have opened up some really interesting stuff that took us away from bitchy neighbors and, oh my gosh, Stella goes to college. You do.
Or just another serial killer, or
Mhm.
you know, that kind of cop storylines.
They needed to stop recycling storylines. They were only in their 4th season, and how many times has he been caught and kidnapped and held prisoner?
Well, it's the Sam Winchester gets hit on the head and gets knocked out trope that must have followed him.
I guess, but really, 4th season, and this was like the 3rd or 4th time he'd been knocked on the head and held prisoner.
Mhm.
And it was too many. I mean, that doesn't have, why him and not a different ranger? Why weren't they running around saving Ranger Smith, who'd gotten hit on the head?
Mm.
It seemed a little much that it was always him. I mean, yeah, he's nosy, but still, he's also 6'4". Why do you hit that guy?
Yeah.
I mean,
How do you reach his head?
Yeah.
well, there's that. I mean, the guy must have stood on a chair.
Yeah,
And
I
disbelief, killer floated up 6 inches in the air so they could reach the top of his head.
well, I think they really focused, I thought, way too much on the family drama piece of it instead of the even the drama between people at work, aside from the actual crime. And I know they wanted to kind of show, here's a law enforcement guy who also has this whole family issue, but to me that was when it was at its weakest, was when they were dealing with the drama, because it's one of those cases where people didn't talk to each other. If people had just talked to each other, let's go to therapy, or just let's sit around the dining room table and nobody gets to leave until we've hashed this out.
Yeah.
Because the characters weren't fully drawn.
Right. Right.
And the plots weren't terrific. So you
Right.
just had drama for drama's sake, because nobody was telling each other. Stella wasn't going to her father when she clearly had something you talk to a cop about.
Mhm.
And she had one in the house. And instead, she was running around trying to find a necklace that she had no idea where it was, except Hoyt might have stolen it.
Right.
She didn't know who was threatening her. That was ridiculous. That's the sort of thing you tell your dad about. Even if they're saying no cops, how can they tell you're talking to your dad?
Right. Right. And he's technically not a cop. He's a ranger.
Right.
Want to split hairs?
I mean, my goodness, you tell your father there's somebody threatening you and they've gotten into your dorm room and you're scared. You tell your father. He'll put somebody on guarding you. They'll find a young looking ranger to put in an empty room down the hall from you. Because we all know dorms have empty rooms.
Of course they do.
Far
Yes.
enough along the semester, somebody's dropped out.
Yeah, probably.
There'll be an empty room somewhere. They can park him in a closet. I mean, or her.
I've
But
seen
they'll
dorms.
find somebody they can park in a closet and pretend is a student to keep an eye on her and make her feel safe.
I saw dorms that repurposed closets, so that's not that far-fetched.
Yeah.
We could write this stuff.
We could,
Oh, yeah.
Wait, but we're all writers, so.
yeah. So let's talk about Walker Independence. This was the show that made it 1 year. It went back 100 years in time and looked at who the Walkers were when they first got to the territory, who the Davidsons were, and spent an awful lot of time in the saloon, as one does.
I've got two big ones here.
Okay.
One is, how on earth did they end up being the Walker family if it was Abby Walker founding the family? Did she find some dude to marry that took her name? That's just a little peeve. The big one is, I wish they had continued this long enough that we got to see the factory that Kai had hidden underneath his laundry, where the people were making all of those dresses in, like, 3 hours. He turned out like an entire show's worth of new outfits.
Mm-hmm.
It was not the amount of work that man got done could not be just him in his kitchen doing the laundry, cooking all that Chinese food, and also like one sewing machine. He had an entire factory's worth of Chinese immigrants underneath there, hiding out, doing all of this stuff. And we just haven't seen it yet.
Well, and see, my answer on
My
the Abby
theory.
Walker thing, which did make me wonder when it was like, okay, is that she did find somebody who was on the run or on the lam or something and had a reason to not keep his own name. And so when they got married, he took the Walker name because that was a way of hiding. I could go for that. I mean, it happened. People tried to leave. The whole point of going west, people left their past behind. But
An outlaw. I like that, Gail.
Yeah, an
It was
outlaw.
an outlaw. And that
Who
was the start of the upstanding Walker family, was some outlaw on the lam.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
I
there was
love it.
Hoyt was right there. And
No, but we know that's a different family because, well,
true. Yeah.
we have a feeling that he'll have a descendant that looks a lot like him named Hoyt.
a lot like him. It's kind
Yeah.
of remarkable, the resemblance.
Well, my biggie was that they did not use Mark Shepard as Hagen, the guy who owned the saloon. I mean, they got Mark Shepard. They needed to really use him. And I had to look back because I couldn't remember exactly what happened. And he did come back, but then he left again. And I read an interview with Mark, and he said that he hoped it was a great show to work on, and that he hoped it went as many seasons as Supernatural, and that he wanted to come back. And he said they're still, his point was, they're still calling the saloon Hagen's, right? And so that was a big, he's such a great character actor, and they just didn't use him in the way they should have, I don't think. And they should have let Jensen direct some of those episodes.
Yes. Well, and
He
I
may
really
have been too busy doing he was an executive producer. He should have let himself if he wanted to. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
no, sorry. Yeah, Jensen. He may have just been too busy doing other stuff.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
he
he probably was, yeah.
Well, if he was shooting The Boys in Vancouver and Walker and Walker Independence were shooting in Texas, that alone could have, caused some difficulty for scheduling.
I think Walker Independence was later though, but still, but he was also involved in doing the Winchesters. So that's,
Yeah. True.
um,
He's a
I love
busy
Kate.
guy.
Yeah.
He's a busy guy.
Yeah. I loved Kate. I would have loved to have seen more plot lines with her as a government agent.
Oh God, she was fantastic. And she's why they didn't keep Mark Shepard around, because she was doing everything that he should have been doing and everything that she was doing, and two other people's stuff beside. They overworked that character.
yeah.
I just would have loved to have seen more of an exploration of this female Pinkerton who was able to do all these other things. And I think there could have
She
been
was
some.
holding the town together.
Hmm?
She was holding the town together.
Yeah.
Took in
Yeah.
all the wayward women and was making sure they got paid. And she needed to get together with Kai, who was clearly in love with her.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, she needed to give him the time of day.
Yeah.
And then she could see the factory he had and help him deal with all the immigrants who were helping him out. And by doing that, helping her out. I need new costumes for a show in 3 hours. I'm on it, you know.
Yeah. Well, and then we had Callian, who again brought the Native American element in. And you could have had so many different plot lines with that, because even like we talked about with Luna and the possibility in modern day Walker, we're a whole lot closer to,
He
you
had a
know,
whole encampment.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we were a whole lot closer to that era with Walker Independence, and it would have been really interesting. There could have been some really nice meaty plots there.
Oh, yeah.
And yet they brought us the Davisons, and the only explanation was they're rich people, so they're evil. And that
Yeah.
was it. And we had to take it as a given that evil people or rich people are evil. And so they're evil.
Well, the brother, not Tom, the one that Abby kind of had the fling with, the other brother whose name I forget, he was kind of evil, and he would have been evil, rich or not, I think.
Mhm.
He was kind of a
The
psycho.
family was set up as paragons of evil.
Yeah.
And they didn't give us a reason for why they wanted to be both rich and evil, or why they needed to do what they were doing. They
Well, it
didn't,
wasn't even
they didn't
something as,
justify it.
yeah, it wasn't even as simple as saying, well, the Civil War happened and they had been a major slaveholding or slave trading company, slave trading family, and they lost all their money because the slave trade got shut down, and so they went west, which happened. There
Yeah.
were plenty of people who lost all their money in the South in the Civil War and went west to start over where nobody knew who they were.
But they still had all their money, and they seemed to like want a bunch of land. But when you were out west in that area, there was plenty of land. You could just take the next parcel over.
You could take the whole state. I mean, nobody was doing
There was
anything.
a lot of land in Texas. If you were rich, you could pretty much do what you wanted. They could have gone another 30 miles down and founded another town.
All the cows you can find. Yeah. I mean,
Like you could do what you wanted. And but I want your ranch just seemed a little silly.
yeah.
It
I
wasn't so crowded then.
no.
I
And
want your house, Gail. I want it.
yeah.
And there aren't any other houses. Seems silly in back in the 1800s when they're still building and there's grassy plains.
Well, and if you've ever been to Texas, calling parts of it crowded even now is a bit of a stretch,
That's the cities.
outside the cities, it's like, okay, I can see a cactus from here, but not much else.
Yeah, and I can drive 5 hours to get to someplace else where there are people.
Yeah, and there's one gas station on the way. I mean,
It's a really big state.
yeah. Yeah.
Really big.
I love when they overlay it on Europe and it like takes up most of Europe. And it's like, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Texas is big.
Yeah.
But,
So
but I can see though that some people, they are selfish enough and egotistical enough and narcissistic enough that they don't want other people to have anything. They want to snatch it. And if they see that somebody has something that they want, they just want to take it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And some people like drama just because they like drama.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all met those sorts. So,
Oh yeah.
but
But they should have explained that more. And they could have worked that into a storyline to explain that. And I think that's what you're getting to, Elektra, that they didn't offer any kind of, well, Mama Davidson is just a, you know, they didn't explore her character enough to make us understand that she was one of these people that just didn't want anybody else to have anything.
Well,
They
and
needed to explain
mhm,
Yeah.
motivation.
motivation. Well, and I think something writers find out really quickly is there are a lot of things that happen in real life that don't work in a book. And saying, well, but that happened in real life, all kind of that crap crazy things happen in real life. But in a book, things have to make sense. And in a script, things have to make sense. And I think that puts a limitation on, well, why is this person like this? Well, there are people like that. Yes. And in real life, they actually have motivations, even if you never find them out. But this is TV and we need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So as we, come into the end here, let's talk about the Winchesters. We got the prequel to Supernatural in a, as we found out later, alternate universe. What'd you think, Elektra?
Really liked the Winchesters, especially when I found out it wasn't our universe.
Mhm.
I love that we got to find out more about the men of letters. We got to explore Henry's mom and find
Mhm.
out about, where it was that the whole figuring out how to fix cars in the garage and all of that, where that piece of the family came in.
Mhm.
And I love the backstory they gave them. I love the Scooby Gang and the bus and all of it. I think they gave us a beautiful package, and the only thing wrong with the Winchesters is that there aren't 14 more seasons of it.
Mhm.
But that's just me.
I
Yeah.
have to agree that I really liked the Winchesters a lot, and I thought that the gang that they created around John and Mary were I love the character that JoJo played, and I'm forgetting the
Mhm.
name again, but it's been a while. But I did buy the DVDs, and and I really I liked. I mean, the only thing that could have made it better for me would have been to have had Dean not only narrating but occasionally appearing more than he did.
Mhm.
But that's just me. But I thought that it was, they used the car that they got the car worked in there, and I did like it better when we did really realize that it was an alternative universe, because I like keeping the canon, and then it had its own separate canon, which is perfectly fine. And I really would have loved to have seen them develop more of the relationship between John and Mary, more of hunting in this universe, and are Rougarous really the same, or are there chupacabras, or is do they encounter some of the other characters that they eventually encounter? Like, is there a Bobby in that universe? I would love to. I mean, is there a Garth? I guess Garth might not have been born then, though.
Probably not.
Anyway, um, but he was what? Garth Fitzgerald the
I was
third?
going to say
Something?
he's Garth the fourth or something. So what about the first three?
Yeah, there could have been an earlier Garth. There could have been, I mean, they could have had so many good storylines, developing just slightly off of what Supernatural did, and done their own thing,
Mhm.
and maybe there was not an Azazel
Mhm.
to curse Mary. I don't know,
But
but
maybe there was a roadhouse.
oh
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, and like you, I enjoyed learning more about the men of letters, but I also enjoyed that they had the witch or the woman who did more magic and stuff early on. I mean, like the first season, whereas Sam and Dean didn't really know anybody who was a positive witch, if you can call her positive, until they met Rowena.
Yeah, I thought it gave us a lot of opportunity to explore different monsters, and just see hunters really kind of evolve their craft when they don't really have anybody to learn it from. I absolutely loved, and I can think of the actor's name, Jojo, the soaking his hair with holy water and then flicking those long, luxurious locks around to spray the vampires with holy water. It's like, yes, that's ingenious. That's make the best of what you've got. I thought that was a lot of fun, and just seeing the roads not taken. What could have happened if some of the things that were canon in our supernatural went a different way, because this was a different universe. It opened up so many different things. And once there was so much fetching the whole way through, because Sam wasn't there, where was Jared? Lots of fan drama in the background. And when we find out that Sam's still alive in our universe, this is Dean in heaven with Bobby meddling in things, and this is an alternate timeline. It explained everything in a way that did not minimize Sam in the canon or Jared. It was, this is Dean keeping himself busy in heaven, which makes total sense, because he would have been a total pain in the butt to Jack.
Oh yeah.
He would have only driven for so long, even Dean, before he started sticking his nose into things.
Yeah. And we should also mention that after 15 years of Supernatural, when they started doing another series, they were more careful about making sure it was more diverse too.
Yeah, we had some real nice diversity with the Scooby Gang, and with many of the other secondary characters that they met.
Which is them understanding that the world had changed since Supernatural first started. The world changed, and they changed with it.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's nice that they're paying attention to the world.
And whether or not they ever intended to do more than one season, or whether they just intended to do one season and put a nice bow on it, they left us in a good place. They wrote us a little story that had a beginning, middle, and an end, where it could have gone on from there, but it ended with a satisfactory conclusion for what it was. And bravo to the writers for doing that and not just leaving it hanging.
Definitely.
Well, if they're good writers, if somebody offers them money to do another season, they'll find a way to start up again. That's the way this works.
Because there's another alternate universe out there. And look, it's a whole different Scooby Gang. The Winchester family is just this pin in reality.
The next season of this is Mary at college, and that John trying to hunt something on the campus, and the Scooby Gang coming to help him, and them growing out from there.
Yeah.
And them doing something to need Ada's help, and coming back to visit Millie, and they'll bring everybody in. But colleges are just cesspools full of monsters. So clearly John would have plenty of stuff to chase around while working some kind of interesting job that will put him in touch with all kinds of other monsters. And we get to see Mary in school and helping him on the side.
Not to mention that most colleges have tunnels underneath them, because that's where all the
tunnels
stuff is. And yeah, who knows what lurks in there.
Boogeymen.
Boogeymen, yes, absolutely. Well, folks, this has been a lot of fun. We are almost through our time, so let's go around, let everybody say where we can find you online. Elektra?
I'm Elektra Hammond. You can find me online at untilmidnight.com, and I do most of my socials on Mastodon, where I'm Elektra at wandering.shop.
Okay. Anne?
I'm mostly on Facebook as Ann Wicker, Ann.Wicker2, I think is the address. But in my profile picture, look for the bracelets, and and then you can also find me on Team Free Will North Carolina's website or Facebook site that Gail runs, and I'm also on Twitter and Instagram, although I'm more on Instagram as Ann Wicker there too. And it's easy to find me if you just search my name.
Okay. My websites are gailzmartin.com, morganbryce.com. And if you spell those right, you can find me on all the major social medias under one or both of those names. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group on Facebook. I've written a lot of articles for the Winchester Family Business Blog, but most of the time I'm here on Continual. So thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up soon, so we'll see you online.